The hospital was under attack, doctors evacuating, no military backup available. Then the quiet night janitor stepped forward, removed his cleaning gloves, and spoke 5 words that changed everything. "I'm Colonel Marcus Steele, Special Forces. The terrorists had picked the wrong hospital to target. Welcome to Secrets Never Told." Before we begin this incredible story of hidden heroes and impossible courage, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who serve in silence. St. Mary's General Hospital stood like a beacon against the Chicago skyline. Its 12 floors of glass and steel housing some of the most advanced medical equipment in the Midwest. On the 7th floor, the cardiac intensive care unit hummed with the quiet efficiency that marked the difference between life and death for dozens of patients. Marcus Thompson pushed his cleaning cart down the pristine hallway, his weathered hands gripping the handle with a steadiness that spoke of decades spent in repetitive motion. At 62, he had been the night janitor at St. Mary's for 8 years, arriving promptly at 10 p.m. and departing at 6 a.m. His presence so consistent that nurses set their watches by his round. To the medical staff, Marcus was invisible in the way that essential workers often are, noticed only when absent, appreciated only in crisis. His gray uniform was always clean, his steel-toed boots polished despite their obvious age. He spoke when spoken to, smiled when acknowledged, and maintained a professional demeanor that never invited deeper conversation. Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief of Cardiology, hurried past Marcus without acknowledgement, her mind focused on the emergency surgery scheduled for midnight. She had walked this same corridor hundreds of times, passing the same janitor, never wondering about the man beneath the uniform. "Evening, Dr. Chen," Marcus said quietly, as he did every night. "Evening," she replied absently, already mentally reviewing surgical procedures. What Dr. Chen didn't know was that Marcus had been watching her work for months, noting her surgical techniques through observation windows, recognizing the precision and dedication that marked exceptional medical professional. His interest wasn't casual. It was informed by experience few would suspect. In the staff break room, nurses Linda Rodriguez and James Park were discussing the new security protocols that had been implemented following recent threats against medical facilities nationwide. "I heard there was another incident in Denver last week," Linda said, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Armed group trying to access patient records." "Medical terrorism is becoming a real concern," James agreed. "These facilities store so much sensitive information: biological research, patient databases, pharmaceutical trials." Marcus entered quietly to empty the trash, his presence barely registering with the exhausted medical staff. But his ears were tuned to their conversation with an alertness that would have surprised them. "Good thing we have enhanced security now," Linda continued, "though I wonder how effective those measures really are against determined attackers." Marcus said nothing, but his mind was already calculating response times, entry points, and defensive positions throughout the hospital. It was a habit he had never broken, even after 8 years of civilian life. At 2:47 a.m., Marcus was cleaning the 3rd-floor laboratories when he noticed something unusual. Through the reinforced windows, he could see movement in the parking garage that didn't match normal pattern. 3 black SUVs had positioned themselves at strategic points, their occupants remaining inside with engines running. His instincts, honed by 2 decades of military service, immediately recognized a staging operation. Marcus set down his mop and moved to a better vantage point, his movements controlled and deliberate. The vehicle's positioning was too coordinated to be coincidental. They had blocked primary escape routes while maintaining sightlines to the building's main entrances. This was a professional operation. Marcus reached for his radio, the standard communication device all hospital maintenance staff carried. But instead of calling security, he hesitated. His cover had been carefully maintained for 8 years. Breaking it now would end the quiet life he had built. But as he watched, armed figures began emerging from the vehicles. At 2:52 a.m., the first explosion shattered the hospital's west entrance. Emergency lighting activated as the main power grid was severed, casting the corridors in an eerie red glow. Screams echoed through the building as patients, visitors, and staff reacted to the sudden chaos. Dr. Chen was in the middle of a delicate cardiac procedure when the lights flickered and the backup generators engaged. Her patient's life hung in the balance, making evacuation impossible. "What's happening?" demanded Dr. Roberts, her surgical assistant. "I don't know, but we can't stop now," Dr. Chen replied, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "This patient won't survive if we leave the procedure incomplete." 3 floors below, armed figures in tactical gear were methodically moving through the hospital corridors. Their objective wasn't random random violence. They were searching for something specific or someone. Marcus heard the gunfire echoing through the building's ventilation system. His military training automatically kicked in, analyzing the sound patterns to determine weapon types, number of attackers, and their approximate position. At least 8 hostile miles, possibly 12. Automatic weapons, coordinated movement patterns. This wasn't a robbery or random attack. This was a targeted military-style operation. His radio crackled with panicked voices from hospital staff throughout the building. Security personnel were reporting multiple breaches, requesting immediate police backup. But Marcus knew from experience that response time would be at least 15 minutes, possibly longer in a coordinated attack scenario. The attackers had that long to accomplish their mission. Marcus moved quickly to a supply closet, where he retrieved items that no one would have expected a janitor to possess. Hidden behind cleaning supplies was a secured case containing equipment that had remained untouched for 8 years. Inside were communication devices, tactical gear, and weapons that Marcus had kept just in case, though he had hoped that case would never arise. He activated an encrypted radio and spoke in a voice that carried authority no janitor should possess. "Nightwatch, this is Steele. I have a code black situation at my location. Multiple hostiles, civilian facility under siege." The response came immediately. "Steele, this is Nightwatch. We show you as inactive status. Confirm your situation." Confirming active engagement. Hospital facility, approximately 400 civilians at risk. Requesting immediate tactical support. Steele, nearest response team is 23 minutes out. Can you maintain until arrival? Marcus looked at the security monitors, watching armed figures systematically clearing floors. They would reach the cardiac wing, where Dr. Chen was performing emergency surgery, within 10 minutes. Negative on waiting for support. I'm going active. Steele, you're not cleared for solo engagement. Nightwatch, people are going to die. Steele is going active. Out. Marcus Steele had spent 22 years in the U.S. Army Special Forces before retiring at the rank of colonel. His final assignment had been classified operations in hostile territories, where small units operated with minimal support and maximum lethality. For 8 years, he had been Marcus Thompson, night janitor. Tonight, he became Colonel Steele again. Moving through the hospital corridors with purpose and precision, Marcus used his intimate knowledge of the building's layout to stay ahead of the attackers. He knew every stairwell, service corridor, and maintenance tunnel. His first priority was intelligence gathering. Using the hospital's own security system, he tracked the attackers' movements and identified their objective, the 7th floor cardiac wing, where several high-profile patients were being treated. Among them was Senator Patricia Williams, recovering from emergency surgery following a heart attack 3 days earlier. Her presence had been kept confidential for security reasons, but somehow the attackers knew exactly where to find her. Marcus reached the 5th floor just as the first group of attackers emerged from the stairwell. 3 men in tactical gear, moving with military precision, but they were expecting civilian resistance, not someone with Marcus's training. The engagement lasted less than 30 seconds. When it was over, 3 attackers were unconscious, their weapons secured, and their communication equipment in Marcus's possession. From their radio chatter, he learned that this was part of a larger operation. The hospital attack was designed to eliminate Senator Williams, who had been investigating defense contractors with ties to foreign governments. Dr. Chen was still in surgery when she heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Through the observation window, she saw a figure in hospital maintenance uniform, but something was different about the way he moved. Marcus knocked on the surgical suite door. "Dr. Chen, I need to speak with you immediately." "I'm in the middle of a surgery," she called back. "Whatever it is, we'll have to wait." "Ma'am, this facility is under attack by a hostile force. You and your patient are in immediate danger." The authority in his voice made Dr. Chen pause. This wasn't the quiet janitor she passed in the hallway. "Who are you?" she demanded. "My name is Colonel Marcus Steele, United States Army Special Forces. This hospital is under siege, and I need to evacuate you to a secure location." Dr. Chen stared at him through the window. The man she had barely noticed for months was standing with military bearing, carrying weapons, and speaking with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. "That's impossible. You're the janitor." "Ma'am, I've been undercover for 8 years. Right now, that doesn't matter. What matters is getting you and your patient to safety." The sound of gunfire echoed through the corridor, much closer than before. "How far along is your surgery?" Marcus asked. 20 minutes until completion, minimum." "We don't have 20 minutes. They'll be here in 5. Dr. Chen looked at her patient, then at the man she thought she knew. "If I stop now, he dies. If you stay here, you both die." The dilemma trauma was impossible. Dr. Chen had taken an oath to do no harm, to preserve life above all else. But the steady confidence in Marcus's voice suggested he knew exactly what he was talking about. "Can you guarantee our safety if we stay?" she asked. Marcus considered the question seriously. "I can guarantee I'll do everything in my power to protect you, but I can't guarantee the outcome." Dr. Chen made her decision. "Then we stay. This patient has a family, children." Marcus nodded with respect. "Then I'll make sure you have those 20 minutes. Using his knowledge of the hospital's layout, Marcus set up defensive positions in the corridors leading to the cardiac wing. He had limited ammunition and no backup, but he had something the attackers didn't: complete knowledge of the terrain and the element of surprise. The first group of attackers reached the 7th floor 12 minutes later. They expected to find frightened medical staff and helpless patients. Instead, they walked into a carefully prepared ambush. Marcus had disabled the corridor lighting, creating shadows and blind spots that he could exploit. Using the hospital's own equipment, gurneys, medical carts, and portable machinery, he had created obstacles that would funnel the attackers into predetermined kill zones. The engagement was swift and decisive. Military training combined with intimate knowledge of the environment proved superior to the attackers' tactical gear and superior numbers. But Marcus knew this was only the first wave. The remaining attackers would adapt their strategy, possibly calling in additional support. His radio crackled. "All units, primary target is in cardiac wing, 7th floor. Eliminate all witnesses." Marcus's blood ran cold. They weren't just here to kill Senator Williams. They intended to eliminate everyone who might have seen them. In the surgical suite, Dr. Chen worked with steady concentration despite the sounds of combat outside. Her patient's life hung in the balance, and she refused to let fear compromise her surgical precision. "Doctor," her assistant whispered, "shouldn't we evacuate?" "We're 15 minutes from completing this procedure," Dr. Chen replied. "This man survives if we continue, dies if we stop." Through the observation window, she could see Marcus moving through the corridor, checking security monitors and coordinating defenses. His transformation from invisible janitor to military commander was so complete that she questioned whether she had ever really seen him before. At 3:27 a.m., the hospital's main communication systems went down. The attackers had cut external phone lines and were jamming cell phone signals, isolating the facility from outside assistance. But Marcus had anticipated this. His military-grade communication equipment operated on encrypted frequencies that civilian jamming couldn't affect. "Nightwatch, this is Steele. Hostile force has isolated the facility. I've neutralized multiple threats, but they have reinforcements. What's your ETA on support?" "Steele, tactical team is 8 minutes out. Can you hold?" "Affirmative. Be advised, multiple civilians in danger, including high-value political target. Attackers are willing to eliminate witnesses." The final assault came at 3:31 a.m. 8 remaining attackers, moving in coordinated teams, attempting to breach the cardiac wing from multiple directions simultaneously. Marcus had positioned himself at the central nursing station, where he could monitor all approaches and coordinate his defense. He had 13 rounds of ammunition remaining and 8 minutes until help arrived. The mathematics were stark. 8 attackers, 8 minutes, 13 rounds. Every shot had to count. The first team breached the east corridor. Marcus engaged them from concealed position, using the nursing station's reinforced counter as cover. 2 attackers down, 11 rounds remaining. The second team came from the west, moving fast and using suppressive fire. Marcus was forced to relocate, using his knowledge of the floor's layout to stay ahead of their advance. 6 attackers remaining, 7 minutes until support arrival. In the surgical suite, Dr. Chen was closing the final sutures on her patient's heart repair. 5 more minutes, and the surgery would be complete. The sound of gunfire was getting closer. Marcus made a tactical decision that went against his training, but aligned with his values. Instead of continuing defensive operations, he went on the offensive. Moving through maintenance corridors known only to hospital staff, he positioned himself behind the remaining attackers. The hunting party had become the hunted. The engagement was intense, but brief. When it ended, Marcus stood alone in the corridor, injured but alive. 6 attackers were neutralized. 2 had fled. At 3:39 a.m., tactical response teams breached the hospital's main entrances. They found a facility secured by a single man whose official existence had been classified for 8 years. Dr. Chen emerged from surgery to find the corridor filled with military personnel. At their center stood Marcus, now wearing tactical gear that matched his bearing, receiving medical attention for wounds sustained in combat. "Colonel Steele," the team leader addressed him formally. "Situation report. Facility secured, sir. All civilians safe. Hostile objective was assassination of Senator Williams and elimination of witnesses. Threat neutralized. Dr. Chen approached slowly, still processing what she had witnessed. Marcus, Colonel, I don't understand. You've been our janitor for 8 years. Marcus looked at her with eyes that carried the weight of both identities. Dr. Chen, I've been watching you work for months. You're an exceptional surgeon. Tonight you proved you're also exceptional under pressure. But why? Why hide? Why work as a janitor? After 22 years of military service, I wanted to save lives instead of taking them. This hospital gave me purpose. General Patricia Hayes arrived at the hospital 40 minutes later. She found Marcus in the emergency room, receiving treatment for 2 gunshot wounds and multiple lacerations. Colonel Steele, she said formally, on behalf of the United States Army, thank you for your service tonight. General Hayes, Marcus replied, attempting to stand at attention despite his injuries. At ease, Colonel. You've earned some rest. But Marcus's mind was already working through the implications. General, this wasn't a random attack. They knew about Senator Williams. They had detailed facility layouts. This was an in-gate operation. We've reached the same conclusion, which is why I'm here to offer you reactivation. Marcus considered the offer carefully. For 8 years, he had lived a quiet life, finding peace in honest work and the knowledge that his presence helped save lives in small ways. Tonight had reminded him that sometimes the greatest service required stepping back into the shadows. Dr. Chen approached his bedside. Colonel, I wanted to thank you. You saved everyone in that wing tonight. Dr. Chen, you saved that patient. That took more courage than anything I did. She smiled slightly. Will you be staying at the hospital? Marcus looked at General Hayes, then back at Dr. Chen. I think my janitorial career just ended, but I'll make sure this hospital gets the security it deserves. 6 months later, St. Mary's General Hospital had become one of the most secure medical facilities in the country. Marcus Steele, now Director of Security, maintained an office on the 7th floor where he could watch Dr. Chen perform surgeries through the same observation windows where he had once cleaned floors. The official record listed the incident as a foiled terrorist attack. Marcus's role was classified, his heroism unrecorded in public documents. But the investigation that followed revealed the true scope of the conspiracy. The attack on St. Mary's had been part of a larger operation targeting medical facilities across the country. Senator Williams's investigation into defense contractors had uncovered a network of foreign agents embedded within critical infrastructure sectors. Dr. Chen had been instrumental in helping authorities understand the attackers' methods. Her detailed observations during the crisis, combined with Marcus's tactical analysis, provided crucial intelligence that prevented similar attacks at 4 other hospitals. You saved more than lives that night, General Hayes told Marcus during a classified briefing 3 weeks after the incident. Your actions exposed an entire espionage network. Marcus nodded, but seemed troubled. General, I keep thinking about the timing. They knew exactly when Senator Williams would be vulnerable, exactly which floor, which room. Someone with high-level access provided that intelligence. We've reached the same conclusion, which is why we need you back in an official capacity. The investigation eventually led to Dr. Michael Harrison, the hospital's former chief administrator, who had been feeding information to foreign agents for 18 months. His arrest sent shockwaves through the medical community and led to enhanced security protocols at hospitals nationwide. But the most profound changes were personal. Dr. Chen found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about the people around her. How many other heroes are hiding in plain sight? She asked Marcus during one of their regular coffee meetings. More than you'd think, Marcus replied. The custodian in your elementary school might be a former Marine. The cashier at your grocery store could be a retired police detective. People carry their service quietly. The hospital staff had initially struggled to adjust to Marcus's new role. Nurses who had barely acknowledged the night janitor found themselves reporting to a decorated Special Forces colonel. But his approach to leadership reflected the same quiet competence he had shown while mopping floors. Respect is earned through action, not titles, Marcus told his new security team during their first briefing. I spent 8 years watching this hospital operate. I know every strength and every vulnerability. We're going to build on the strengths and eliminate the vulnerabilities. Dr. Chen observed the transformation with fascination. The man who had silently cleaned around her for years was now commanding teams of security professionals with natural authority. Yet he maintained the same respectful demeanor that had made him nearly invisible as a janitor. Did you ever regret it? She asked him one day. Giving up your military career to mop floors? Marcus considered the question carefully. Every life has seasons. My military service was about protecting people from threats they never saw. My janitorial work was about supporting people who save lives every day. Both had purpose. The hospital had established the Marcus Steele Emergency Response Protocol, though Marcus insisted the program not bear his name. The protocol trained medical staff to recognize and respond to security threats while maintaining patient care priorities. The most important lesson from that night, Marcus explained to the training class, is that heroes aren't defined by their job titles. Dr. Chen saved a life while bullets were flying outside her operating room. Nurse Rodriguez evacuated patients while the building was under attack. Everyone who stayed at their post was a hero, but Marcus knew the real victory wasn't tactical, it was human. The hospital staff had learned to see past uniforms and job descriptions to recognize the person beneath. The invisible had become visible, not through revelation, but through action. Years of military service had taught Marcus that the most important battles are often fought by people whose names never appear in history books. The night janitor who prevented a terrorist attack. The surgeon who refused to abandon her patient. The nurse who stayed to help others evacuate. These were the victories that mattered. Ordinary people choosing extraordinary courage when everything depended on their decision. Dr. Chen kept the surgical notes from that night, not for medical record, but as a reminder that heroism isn't reserved for people in uniform or with special training. Sometimes the greatest courage comes from simply refusing to abandon your post when duty calls. And sometimes the person mopping the floor next to you has already proven they'll give everything to protect the lives you're trying to save. Have you ever known someone who seemed ordinary until the moment they proved extraordinary? Someone whose true strength only showed when everything was on the line? Share their story in the comments below and let us know what city you're watching from today. If this story moved you, subscribe to Secrets Never Told. We're here to honor the quiet guardians whose courage remains hidden, whose service continues in silence, and whose dedication to protecting others knows no boundary between past and present.